You are officially in the loop. Welcome to In the Loop podcast. I am your host, Jordan Joe Hollabaugh, professional rodeo athlete, entrepreneur, and a full-time cowgirl. I'm married to my best friend, and we are blessed to get to do what we love every day, and that is travel around the world and rodeo. My goal on this podcast is to promote the Western industry, and specifically the sport of breakaway roping. On In the Loop, we bring you behind-the-scenes stories of what real life looks like every day, from cowgirls, cowboys, industry leaders, producers, trailblazers, and all of the like. You are now officially in the loop. Let's get to it. Okay, guys, welcome back to In the Loop podcast. I am here and joined by a great friend of mine today that we've met through a business entrepreneur partnership. I don't even know how we want to say it, but I'm so glad that we met this way, and then we have evolved, and we've got to be great friends, and we're also going to be doing some business things together as well. So, Lyndsey V, thank you so much for coming to In the Loop podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jordan. We've been having so much fun together figuring all this out.
We've been having a blast. It's like two women who are very empowering and strong and have a million different ideas. And we're like, okay, which direction do we want to go? And how do we want to get there? But let's talk a little bit about just kind of how we met and how we came together. So we got together and met through our mutual business coach, Greg Marshall. And he is awesome and has taught us a lot of different things, and we've taken it and run with it. I'm so thankful Greg brought us together. Tell me a little bit about your background, where you came from, and what all that you do.
Yeah, it was so fun when we connected, and I got super fascinated in rodeo and the things that all these professionals go through, and I realized across the board there were similar things with what I teach in other industries, with my experience in burnout. I teach resilience because I went through so much struggle and just wanted to help people get through it. So we were kind of connecting when I'm asking, are you finding this in your industry? Do people have these ideas of success? Have they tried so many different things? And what happens in this situation? So it was really fun to connect and realize there's a lot of help here that we could do and that we're learning from, and it's really
Well,
cool.
and I just remember our first phone call, it was supposed to be a 10-minute like connecting phone call, very low key, and it ended up being an hour and a half, and we were literally chatting about all the things. And from where you come from, and you are in Utah, and so
Uh-huh.
we obviously talked about the weather there and how beautiful it is. But all then it just got into the retrospect of what are you seeing in business, and what are you guys running into? What are you teaching and training? You're a professional speaker, and you do a lot of different activities with several different groups, and you were like, hey, this is kind of what I'm seeing in my span of work. How does that apply to rodeo? And in the beginning, I think we both thought what you do doesn't really apply to rodeo, but in the end, everything that you do applies to rodeo, and just life itself. It applies to rodeo, it applies to life, it applies to business, it applies to our marriages, kiddos, anything and everything that we do, it all applies to it. And so I was just so intrigued. And that's kind of what sparked our partnership together. Let's dive into what you do and what you talk about as a part of Lyndsey V as a speaker.
Yeah, it applied even more the more and more we talked. That was a really fast hour and a half. I'm like, was it really that long? Um, Across the board in all industries, though, we have different situations but similar stresses. And I think a lot of us try to just push forward, or we do a lot of things that are ineffective, but we do them because we're so passionate. Like, we will do the work it takes, whatever it takes to reach our goals. And so a lot of times that means like pushing so hard and doing more. And I'm seeing, across the board, uh, people wanting to find a way to feel more sustained and keep it going for the long term. And so in my work, we look a lot at what is taking up all that mind space, like what's kind of cluttering our mind and our lives, and it's getting in the way of living how we want to and living our biggest and reaching our goals. And the cool thing is there's really specific things that get in the way of most of us. Like, we might think we're the only one unique or struggling. But time and time again, we're seeing problems with, you know, feeling worn out or working really long hours or what that means about us. Or a lot of them is, how did our journey end up looking versus how we thought it would look, expectation versus reality. And how can we kind of clear out? That's the mind clutter I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Those, the beliefs, fears, emotions, and all the work that we do, which is really why we're so passionate, right, Jordan? Like, that's actually a bonus because we care about what we're doing. So, kind of learning how to look at that, take the reins back in our own hands, and be in the driver's seat of our lives. We have a lot of specific and actionable activities and things that we want to do and talk about to help people just like realize what they are, make their choices, and actually enjoy their careers, right? And
Yeah.
feel peaceful doing it and wanting to connect with people and be in the moment of what they're working on, enjoying it.
Well, and I think that's where we talked about is, to me, I think that you get in your own world and you see, you think this doesn't happen to other people. Like, there's not, people don't experience burnout. They don't experience resistance. They don't experience, trials. And I'm trying so hard, and I'm working day in and day out, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but I'm not seeing results. I think you get boxed into like, this is just me, and it's not, like you're saying, it's everybody in the world it happens to. And the coolest part that you've got is you're like, "Hey, we're taking back control here." Right? Here's the issues that I'm going on about. Here's where I'm struggling, or here's where I keep hitting this roadblock, or whatever it is that's holding you back from taking control of your own life. And you're like, "Hey, let's break this down and give you a process on how you can overcome that, how you can take back this control, and how you can make it work for you." And that's really what you've done. So I want to talk about, though, because I this is the biggest importance to me, is my goal on this podcast and everything else is I want to help people because I've been there. I've been through these things. It's not like I'm talking down to anybody, because literally I've walked through the valleys myself. And so it's like,
Uh-huh.
how can I share my experiences and trials and victories with everybody to help them overcome these things. So that's my goal in this. So I want to take you back to how you got into being such a powerful woman and a speaker, and teaching everybody, what about, just like we were talking about, stress, working backwards. It's our fears, it's our beliefs, it's our emotions. So where was a point in time when you actually were stuck in your life that you're like, "Hey, I'm not going to take this anymore."
Oh yeah. Oh, just picking one, Jordan. um, I love what you're saying though too, because as we're connecting on the struggle that we have, that we feel like we're the only one, we're like finding all this power and solution from it as we're getting it out and talking about it. I love that piece. Well, one really pivotal moment for me, it was about 12 years ago. And up until this point, I'm not even kidding you. I thought a successful life, like 100%, it was being productive and it was being happy. So that meant for me, if I wasn't productive, running a big business, and I wasn't happy doing it, I must not be succeeding at life.
Mhm.
And the hugest feeling bigger than all of that is I just thought, I can't let anyone find this out. Like, I just need to keep going, keep going. And so I became a pro of just waking up and putting on this mask. And genuinely, like, and I'm still this way. I would do whatever work it takes. Like, I'm a hard worker. I'll do whatever it takes to get where I want. But what I was doing and the way I was going about it wasn't working. And so I just thought, I'll just keep faking it and
Mhm.
nobody will know. And I'll act like I'm succeeding. I'll wake up early. I'll post stuff that's going well. I'll travel to the right places. I'll make sure my business checks enough of the boxes. Well, in the meantime, so focused on achievement, box checking, that I'm just like feeling more and more anxious in my life and more dread. And what had happened is this pressure had built and built. And I'm sure some of us have felt this where um, there was stress, but that hasn't even become the problem anymore. It's keeping up appearances. It's living as you think So every morning I'm feeling this way. I'm putting on a mask. I'm acting like things are happy. And one morning, I kid you not, I'm so stubborn. I was grabbing my task binder where I was writing my goals and all the tasks to achieve that day. And I'm like, come on, Lyndsey, just put on a happy face. Just write all of your goals down. I'm not kidding you, my pen would not move. I I could I could not get it to move. I could not write. My brain was like, "This is enough." And I'm seriously still like, "Come on, Lindsay, let's just keep going. Everything's fine. There's so much to be happy about." My pen would not move.
Mm.
And this thought came in my head. I remember, I don't know if I've told you this totally. It was like, "Lindsay, what do you really want to say? Like what's really going on?" And I remember being like, "What are you there's no way I would ever look at that. I don't know what you're even talking about." But Lindsay, what do you want to say? Was the thought that came to me. And I remember had never happened before. I just got it out. Like my pen started moving, ink is pouring out. And I remember like I'm writing, I'm frustrated. This isn't what I thought it would be. These goals aren't even what I wanted, and I'm not connecting with the people around me. Like, what am I going on here? And I wrote 6 pages. It was
Oh my
like putting
gosh.
back. Yeah, and it was stuff I did not even know was there, you know? And it was so quick. And at the end, I tore it up in little pieces. I took it outside to the big garbage and threw it all away. And I'm still like, okay, what was that about? Let's just act, perfect again and act like things are fine. But I noticed I felt a little bit lighter, like just by looking at it, what was already going on and already there.
Mm.
And I wasn't, life didn't start to get better, but that was it didn't start to get better overnight. It wasn't like a quick solution, but it opened the door and it started to change things because it created this culture of starting to face things and starting to look at what was really going on. And the biggest difference with that is I started to be able to accept it,
Yeah.
and be okay with it. And then I could make plans. Then I could focus on goals. Then I could move forward because I was doing it from an authentic place rather than a pressure and what I thought I had to be and needed to be. So that's when things started to change. In fact, I ended up shred writing, I call it now, like through tons of different notebooks. I created my process into a book because that was the way that I found to finally be real with it, look at it. And that's when I could be productive, resilient, move forward. It was super
Well,
unexpected.
yeah, and like you're saying, being real with it, right? So I think that that's something that, and I don't know whether this is a learned thing from society, from the world, from where I don't really know where it comes from, but it's the thing, especially I feel like in our world, rodeo world, it's like you just keep grinding, you just keep going, and you don't really confront that. You really don't want to talk about the what ifs and the fears and the doubts. It's like you just avoid and move forward. And so within
Mhm.
that, in my career, that created such high anxiety, stress, pressure, expectations, and it was really, when I got on a high, it was great, but there was so many lows. And it was really scary, right? Because it's a place to where you can only fake it for so long. And then it's like, but I've told everybody that I'm fine and I'm perfect and I'm good and I don't share any of the real me and I don't share any of those vulnerabilities, and people can't know what's really going on with me, right? And I
Oh,
don't know whether
yeah.
that's social media or whether that was here before social media, right? This is our generation and where we're at. But yeah, I mean, it happens. And so, as you and I were talking, you were telling me about your shred it process. And I love how that's in a book. Everybody go to lyndseyv.com, check out her book. She's got a book on it. It's a really awesome process.
No, well, thanks,
Um,
Jordan.
but also it's like, you know, how do we confront those things head on? Because one thing I have learned through my years of competing and just in life, the only way out is through. The only
Yeah.
way to get over
Yes.
those things is to confront them head on. And honestly, when, before that, somebody, I'd originally done that and I did a deal. It's called Neurocycle with Dr. Caroline Leaf. And she's like, "Okay, you need to bring up your problems." And I'm like, "Lady, you lost your mind. You're crazy. I ain't bringing up the problems. Like
Yeah.
I ain't telling nobody my problems. And what if
Why would
somebody
I?
finds this journal? Because then they'll see all my, like, no, I'm not doing that." But I did it and I was like, it was just writing everything out. It was like, took a deep breath, right? And it's like, okay, this is
Mhm.
good. And like you said, it's not an overnight fix. It is a continual process. Like I still do this
Yeah.
every day. But it's like confronting those things head on. Like, what is the issue? Calling it out and taking control back over it.
Yes. Because the good news is it's actually these small, simple things. You could do this right for a few minutes a day and find yourself feeling so much more confident and authentic and power to move forward. And I think just thinking about it too, like when you talk about the real lows, I remember just anxiety that was like shut me down, not function, and like bills going unpaid, major problems with this business that we're running, and um, but that feeling of keeping it up, like that's a place to go right and think because it's all for what, right? What is all of this appearance to keep up when this real low that I'm going through? That's what's so real and so much right now. Um, and you talk about why we do it. It makes me think about our identities. Like, what will it say about me if I'm anxious, if I'm struggling? And so I think we can't even think through it. If I'm really feeling this, what will it say about me? So then we
Mhm.
stay kind of handcuffed by it.
And
Where if we
I
can kind of be humble and then look at all of it, we realize it's the same across the board, and it's just something meant to push through, right? Something coming up to be looked at to find power from. It's never meant to take us down. That's what I've been so shocked by. These things aren't really meant to hurt us. It's actually this playground life can be in our careers to find more who we are and more power and to push through these things, not to be anything negative about us.
yeah. Well, and one of the most empowering things, and I think I shared this story with you that I've found is I recently did a Bible study with a group of fellow competitors that I look up to. They're
Yeah.
some of the best in the industry. And as we were going through this Bible study, literally all of us, and not exactly the same, but had almost all the same doubts, fears, anxieties. And I'm like sitting there thinking, wait, what? You feel that way? And you go through the same thing? Are you sure you, because you don't look like you go through that. You don't look like you battle fear. You don't look like you battle doubt. You don't look like you battle, anxiety. Are you sure? Uh, I was like, and I was just sitting there thinking, like, wow, you know, we have been so misconceived that other people don't go through this because we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it enough. We talk about it like it's something that makes you weak, and in
Yeah.
tune, it doesn't. Talking about this stuff makes you stronger. Going through it, taking action for yourself every day, making that commitment day in, day out to confront these things head on, to dive into them, to dig through them. How do I make it work for me instead of against me? And so it's just been so humbling this journey to know that, like, we all have the same doubts, fears, beliefs. It may not be exactly the same for everybody. Everybody is different, right? Thank you God that we're all different. But
Yeah.
we all encounter a lot of the same struggles. And so that's why I wanted to come together with you and talk through this, because I'm like, this applies to everything that we do, whether it's business, rodeo, and how can we start to make that pivot in our life and take the change and make it work for us.
Yeah. We just need a strategy, right? It's a lot easier to look at things when you know, I know what to do moving forward. We just talked about how we're calling our workshops a blueprint because it's a direction, it's something to stand on, it's a way to do it. Not only do we connect and have each other so that we know we're not in it alone, but we know what steps to take and how it works. Because yeah, there are 76% of professionals burned out. That's a pretty recent number, American Psychological Association. And so it is going on and it is real. And I think honestly, the people who become the most like quote successful in their careers or are the ones who stick with it the longest. That means they found strategies to stay with it and look at it.
Mhm.
It's not the people who we look at like the women in Jordan's group are so incredible who we think have nothing going on because that's not the reality. Yet we tend to think, and I definitely do, like, oh, these people at the top, they must just be the ones that are the most talented, gifted. No, it worked the hardest, stuck with it, found strategies to do it, right?
Yeah, and to do it over and over and over again. So that leads me to my next question for you. You talk about, hey, I was going through this deal. I'm burnout. You did your shred writing. You said, hey, I'm working at it. So walk me through that process. Like, you're working at it. How long does it take you? Where did that journey take you when you finally did that shred writing, and then you continued on and you are where you are today?
Well, I realized after a while, like 7 years of doing this consistently, shred writing, looking at things, I realized there was a lot more than just writing what's going on. I realized it always took a pause. Like a pause is a big piece we can use in our lives immediately because that's what stops the mind chatter from continuing to build. That's what stops stress from still running the show, right? When we're in that headspace of we're running on fumes, but we still need to get going and we're going to our next competition and we don't have time to catch up from the last one, it takes a pause, right? Um, I think of that quote between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to find our freedom. Um, in that space is our power to choose our response, right? And then in our response is our growth and our freedom. So I realized when I was shred writing, I was actually stopping from going down the same path I had always gone. And I was
Mm.
choosing something different, which was starting to look at things. And then when I cleared out the mind clutter, those fears, beliefs, the things I didn't know were there, but that came up so easily with the right prompts, um, then I started to realize I was getting ideas. I was feeling excited about my career again. The original passion that I had felt, that's not something you can force. That's something to pause and find out. And I realized that the shred writing, what worked so well about it, it was that permission, that piece to face it head on. So, um, and then a lot of, I feel like life is this, like we're saying, this continual work. Well, that's continually choosing to pivot, to choose life another way, right? As hard as it is to pause, to connect, to look at the things that we're feeling, it takes doing that day after day. And that's what will pivot our life in a small direction that makes a huge difference, where we do feel excited, where we do feel that foundation, what we're doing, and able to move forward with a strategy and a plan.
Yeah, 100%. And I think moving forward is the biggest thing. It's a strategy and a plan. And so that is one thing that you have done, and that's what you do. You bring forward the strategy and the plan. So within that's come full circle. Talk about your career and what you do and what you bring for businesses and other companies today.
Yeah. Well, I go in and do a lot of workshops where we actually look at some of the biggest fears holding us back and professionals back. And we go through really easy steps to release them. And if you're just listening to the podcast now and you want to grab out a piece of paper, you can even just ask yourself, what am I fearing the most of this? Or if I could say anything freely about this piece I'm feeling, what would it be? If you're not even sure about the pieces that you're feeling, um, start to look at, what would life be if I didn't achieve the things that I'm wanting to achieve? What would life be for me? Um, it's tempting to think, well, why would I focus on negativity? Or um, I don't want to look at that. That's dark or that doesn't make me feel good. But the thing is, it's already there. It's already going on in our lives. So that's why it's so powerful to look at and just say what's already there. So we do that in businesses, but then we also talk about a lot of strategy and plan moving forward. How to pause in your life, what that looks like. In our workshops, we're going to talk about facing what our ideas are success are, and then looking at what we really want them to be, and then how do we create that, and what are small actionable steps that we do to move forward, to find more resilience. Um, and there's so many specific ones that we can look at, and it's different for each of us, but kind of digging and then facing them head on and making a plan to move forward.
Well, and that's what I'm most excited about. So you and I have teamed up and we are going to come out where with a class that's going to be a 4-week class. And what it's going to be called is the blueprint to creating resilience in rodeo. And we're going to use you've designed this class. You and I have had several different conversations. You're like, "Hey, what's your biggest fears? What's your biggest doubts? What do people go through? What's the atypical? This is what I'm struggling with, whether it's breakaway roping, barrel racing, tie down roping, team roping. It literally can be anybody, man or woman. But we're going to go through and we're going to debunk these myths and we're going to start taking back control of our lives. So, tell us a little bit about this course that we're looking forward to, which you guys can go to intheloop.podcast.co and sign up for this course. We're only going to limit it to 10 spots. So, we're only taking 10 people this first time. It's going to start on March 24th is our day one. We're going to do 4 classes Monday nights, and we'll record those. If you guys can't make them, we'll send it back. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about what this class is going to be, why we're going to do it, and what they can expect going through this.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting hit the ground running. In week one, our first one, we're going to immediately connect on what our biggest barriers are, what we feel like we're having the hardest times with, and then dig a little bit deeper. What could be there? What's really going on? What's something here that we can find power from? We're going to do it together, individually. We're going to share. And week two, and as we go on, we're going to be doing activity after activity where we get to look at, we get to question the way we've been doing things. And we get to hear there's a lot of story, right, Jordan? Like we're both sharing our experiences, other people that we've heard of, how people have found strength and struggle, and what people do that works. We have a lot of professionals who have figured out some of the things that we're trying to figure out. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
So we share those and work a lot on creating the life that we want, the blueprint that will help us get where we want, which is different for each one of us. And sometimes we're so run by what we think we want. This workshop is going to give us a chance to look at what is that really? And what does that mean for me? And why is that what I think I want? And create it so that we're choosing it and we're moving forward in the directions confidently that we know are us the very most. Taking that time to figure it out, that's something, I mean, we don't have the time to usually do, but it will move us forward so much to do that together.
Well, and I'm most excited about week 2, obviously, because that's week 2 is shred writing, but we're just gonna debunk this. And one of the most exciting things, and going back to I'm hooked on and fresh off of this Bible study my group just completed. But this is a total place in this workshop. There's gonna be no judgment, no fear, no condemnation, none of that stuff. And I learned so much from my Bible study, as in like listening to other people's story and how can I apply that to me, or how does that apply to something else I'm doing. Maybe it didn't apply at all, but it's just learning with other people. God created us to be together for community, right? And so that's what we're
Mhm.
bringing in this workshop too, is we're going to do it together. We're going to go through these things together. You feel free to share or not share whatever you're going through, but you have brought together the keys, the tools, the tips, the actionable items that we're going to do every week. So we're going to meet once a week for 4 weeks in a row. Monday nights, we're going to start March 24th. We're going to end April 14th. We're taking 10 people to sign up. I'm pumped about this, but it's going to be an empowering place. I'm excited to go through this with you. And really the whole point for me is, how can we create the lives we want, and how do we take those actionable steps to see those results? Right? We've all done goal setting. We all have had big dreams. We've all done all these things, and it's great. And we write them down and then we leave them, right? No, that is not the point of this class. We're going to write them down. We're going to take action, and we're going to make some things happen. And so that's what I'm most excited about, is how can we create the life we want? How big can we dream? How big can we go? And then see these things come into fruition.
Yes. We're going to have accountability every week too, so that we're building as we go, so that this is sustainable and this is lasting. Jordan, we've both talked about how we've had to find ways to make our life sustainable and last long. And it's not the stuff that we thought it was in the beginning, right? We've talked a lot about consistency and finding what works individually. Otherwise, like you said, a lot of it is so easy to fall away, to forget about. We need to make it lasting.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm excited. So anybody who wants to sign up, like I said, we're only taking 10 spots. You can go to intheloop.podcast.co and sign up there. We have all the information, class details, everything. It will be live as of today. First 10 people get signed up to work with Lyndsey and I one-on-one as well. We've got some really exciting things. So what else is going on for you, Linz? What do you have coming up this spring other than our really cool Blueprint to Resilience class? What else you got coming up?
Well, there's a lot of fun I've dove into with communication because I realized that conversation that's one of those things that can cause a lot of pressure and stress. And knowing exactly what to say to move forward in conversations to get the things that we want in our career, that right there builds a lot of confidence and resilience. So pulling in that communication piece with it, doing a lot with that, and just a lot of different groups of a lot of hands-on actionable, I like to call it actionable leadership, actionable communication, um, doing more podcasts, and then just helping people do get to their goals. I have specific, coaching and people that I work with. It's just so fun because we all are so capable and have the potential. And it's like we just want to help each other get out of our own way because we're meant to reach so much more than I think we even realize just by simple little shifts and having the tools that we need.
Yeah. Well, and I'm excited to do it together. So that's the most fun part of what we get to do on our Blueprint to Resilience and Rodeo class. Lyndsey, thank you so much for
Me
joining
too.
us on In the Loop today. Like I said, I'm excited to get to have this class with you for the next 4 weeks. So we'll be knocking it out, taking names, doing all those things. Thank you so much for joining us today for just sharing your insight. And I look forward to having you on here in the close future.
I can't wait, Jordan.